Hi, this is Rachel from the Dotting Center. Hello, artists. Today's video is a little bit different. I'm bringing you a video of a stretch project I gave myself. For those of you unfamiliar, a stretch project is one in which you do something that is beyond your current skill level. It will force you to be in a place where mistakes will most likely happen and you'll be uncomfortable, but you'll hopefully stretch your skills and learn and grow. So I've been dotting for 8 years, but it's mostly been just dots and dot shapes using dotting tools. So I'm expanding my skills today by using liner brushes. So this is not a tutorial. I am not about teaching something I have no business teaching yet. I'm just learning, but I'd love to share some of the things that I've learned in doing this project with you. So if you are terrified to work with brushes, don't be scared. Let's learn together. I am just on fire for this, and I hope that you are too. We're going to expand our skill set and learn some new things. So sit back and check this out. See if you want to add this into your practice. And yeah, let's learn together. Now, before we get into the painting, I want to be very clear here because this is important. I worked this design out on paper first. You can see on the left, this was my sketchbook version. It's a lot looser. There's paint over paint. There's colors that really don't work well together. There are shapes that really I painted over sections, like I was working it out. So all the mistakes I have made on that paper version before getting to the canvas, you can see that I tightened things up on the canvas. I was a lot more thoughtful and methodical about the brush strokes that I did. So just know that all the work was really done on paper before I got to the canvas. So here we go. We're starting off with an 8-inch round canvas. I'm using my 11-inch stencil to find center. This is the 5-10 divider stencil. And it's pretty easy to find center. You just line up the edges of your canvas with the circles in the stencil and then just trace out all the divider lines. I like to use a compass, so I only draw a couple of the arcs and then I just use the compass to create all my circles. And I really wasn't super sure how many circles I was going to need, so I just kept it simple and started from there. So I picked the 5-10 divider because I wanted to have a 5-petaled flower mandala starting from the center. And this center starts off pretty traditional with a dot and then some surrounding dots. I'm using the number 1 size, the smallest size for the gold dots. And then out from there, I will use the number 2 for the second row. So this starts off pretty basic. You've seen this before many times, but at this point things get wild and I take out the brushes. And you all know that brushes, I'm not very comfortable with liner brushes. I've been very honest. And a lot of you have shared with me your concerns and, you're frightened, basically. This is just so scary. It's so very different. I'm not new to brushes, but I am new to liner brushes. It's a completely different way of using a brush than what I'm used to. And so, this is how we learn. And this video is also not to teach you anything because you're going to see some pretty wonky lines probably. And some of you are going to have a real hard time with this compass in the wet paint, but, we're just going to have to breathe through it. You got to do what you got to do. I needed a line there, and so while it's wet, I consider it fair game. It's fine. So now we're coming in with a different color, and I'm using that line that I just drew as a reference point to start the line. It's good to know where your line is going to start and where it's going to end so that they all are the same length. It gets a little trickier if there is a curve or a bend to the line, so that's why I'm starting off with these straight lines just so that I can kind of get my chops down and kind of feel comfortable with the brush. And if you're just starting out, I would recommend that you start off with a straight line. You know, make a flower with petals that are straight. And now this has these little tiny petals are just have a very slight curve to them. My goal was just to ease in on the curving of the brush strokes, just to make it a little bit easier to start off, because like you don't want to come out of the gate with like the infinity symbol or like an S curve or like some kind of weird complicated brush stroke. Just like start fat on the end, apply a lot of pressure, and then as you come towards the end of the line, slightly lift the brush up so it has a little tapered end. Here you can see I'm starting off in the middle of those two lines. That's where my brush hits the canvas. I just kind of relax the brush down onto the surface of the canvas and then pull that brush tip back. So one of the things that this brush technique is going to allow us to do is work with expansion and contraction in our designs. So the dots will be, the tight contraction parts of the piece where things are very precise and get really small, and then you can explode into sections where you use your brush and you can really expand out into other areas and really kind of move that design quickly with a brush. So this is that thing where you have to create two symmetrical lines in a mirror kind of way on, opposing sides. It's tough for me, and I have no stencils to help me out here. I'm just freehanding this, and it feels super weird. It itches a different part of your brain. But it is good whenever you feel that feeling of things being super strange. That means that you're growing, at least. Just lean into it because it's going to feel weird. But just know that behind that is, the next time you do it, it's going to feel less weird. And then and then the time after that, it's going to probably be not weird at all. You'll be working on something else that's weird. Never ending weirdness. That's what we're looking for here. Okay, so I just got through a big section where I used the brush a lot. So you see that flower shape is basically built. And so from that section on, I'm starting to use dots more to kind of differentiate the long flowing strokes with the smaller round dots. I've also found that with smaller swooshes, it's easier to use a stylus or a dotting tool. Really, the brushes are best for really long swooshes, The smaller ones they work out much better with dotting tools. So here's the first pretty long, weird, double curved, strange shape using a brush, and it's with that beautiful Deco Art bright blue color. It is absolutely electric, and it's opaque enough it can handle being on a black background, and it just flows so nice and smooth. But you see, I really load up the brush, and then as you curve the brush around, you can push that paint in a way that makes the stroke thick, and then elevate the bristles so that they taper off. Okay, so here's that thing where you have to make a mirror shape on the other side, make it symmetrical, and wow, it's hard. I think one of the best things that I've learned through my art practice is to try and make friends with that uncomfortable feeling, right, of doing something new, because it just feels weird. Being a noob is tough, but sometimes we can get too comfortable and our skills kind of stagnate, and that's a super bummer. So whenever there's that feeling of like, ew, I don't know, this is weird, it doesn't feel right, lean into it and kind of really work on trying to be resilient in those spaces, because that is where growth happens. So this space right here, I've decided to create a series of radiating dots. And this is actually going to be a space where the eye can kind of rest. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Usually dots are, pretty exciting to look at, but in this case, in this design, the way that it's looking, those brush strokes are just so screamy for attention. I feel like a nice section of just very simple radiating, like a gradient pattern of dots, that's going to be a place where the eye will just kind of rest. These also are going to get darker as they go out, so they should visually look like they are receding into the background, where the blue brush strokes are kind of popping out. So my thoughts here are, the cool colors, like the blues and the purples, the cool colors will move forward in the design, where the warm colors will recede into the background. And that's kind of my thought process here, is that these radiating dots will move back, and the brush stroke blue dots are going to move forward in the design. So this is a new process for me. This is using brushes is something that I haven't done in the past, and I am just on fire for it. I'm so excited. There's so much to learn here, and we can learn together. One thing it's going to let us do is work larger and explore ideas like expansion and movement and fluidity. Ooh, okay, so here is one of those sections where I learned a lot. So just like with dotting tools, it is incredibly important to pay attention to the amount of paint that you load onto your brush. This really makes a difference. So you want to make sure that you have enough paint on the end of your brush so that it will extend out to the length of your stroke. So if you don't have enough paint on the end of your brush, it's going to taper off too soon. And then alternatively, if you have too much paint on the end of your brush, what happens is the tapered end of the line will suffer. So if you have too much paint on your brush, when you're trying to lift at the end of the stroke, if there's too much paint, it's going to look too chunky, too thick. It won't taper off into a nice point. So that matters, the amount of paint on your brush. Just thought I'd pop that in real quick. So, stretch projects are super fun, and I do it with piano as well. But the trick is to do it sparingly. So, the deal is you pick one stretch piece every once in a while when you feel like you want a challenge. But really, you do your usual repertoire at your own level for like a majority of your practice so you don't get burned out, because you can get really burned out and frustrated if you do something that you're not used to, right? Because you make a lot more mistakes and it's just, it's not in your comfort zone. It's uncomfortable. One YouTube rabbit hole to go down is to look up art challenges. I could watch these all day long. It's the ones where you see artists drawing like 100 heads or 100 hands or 1,000 watercolor flowers, sketchbook pages, like whatever their thing is. So, if it's a good video, what you'll see is the artist will share their fails and frustrations because, there's like a sticky part during the project where things might get a little stale or tough, right? And so they show when they struggle. And oh my gosh, it's so relatable, right? So it's that unique art making experience, and it kind of takes guts, and it's so fun to watch, especially some of these younger artists that are on here. And I don't say this with any disrespect. They have put in the time. They have clearly put in the hours and the work and the discipline, and they are just very aware of the art making process, and it's enviable. It's just awesome to watch. So here is the end of the painting. I'm just going to stop right here and allow it to dry. Once all the paint has dried, I'm going to go in with a damp cloth and wipe off all of those chalk guidelines so that I can see the design as it is. The guidelines have served their purpose, thank you. And now we're just going to wipe them off and apply highlights and top dots. So now the highlights and the top dots come in, and basically I'm just using dots or brush strokes to highlight the petals in a different way, kind of make those shapes look more dimensional by adding a lighter color on top. So for these highlights, I'm using the very finest liner brush, and this is excellent practice for staying in the lines. You've already got the shape larger underneath, and so it's really good practice for kind of keeping your brush tip within a certain area and using that shape over and over again. And now we're going to come into the center and add a highlighted top dot. I usually wait until the end to do this. I really hope that you all are excited about this new direction we're gonna go in. I'm gonna devise some new tutorials and stuff, adding brushes. And you know what? I just might be late to the party on this one. I'm not really sure. Well, I hope this video has served to inspire you to maybe grab a brush. Don't be scared. Let's learn this together. We will, of course, stick with the dots because that's what we do here, but every once in a while I might just pop right in with the brush and surprise you. As always, you can meet me over at thedottingcenter.com for all of your dot art needs, and I hope to see you in the next video. Who knows what's coming next week? I don't know. It's a big surprise, even to me. I have no clue. But it will be fun, so I will see you then. Bye.